So the new topic concerns academic offences and plagiarism in particular. It's not the sort of thing that we really want to discuss or write about, but it's too important to ignore. My mantra, the thing that I say whenever I work with a university or college that's struggling with the problem is this. What distinguishes one institution from another is not whether they have a problem with plagiarism, because all institutions these days do, but rather the difference is how the institution actually deals with the problem. One of the major problems that we struggle with is that students are not, in their earlier education, properly trained and educated to use source materials properly. This will mean that there is a lot of remedial work that is needed, and that has to be firmly embedded in general education courses and indeed throughout the curriculum. The quality of the academic standards that we maintain in our institutions is, after all, our fundamental offer to our stakeholders. And if we can't guarantee these, or if the stakeholders begin to lose trust in our ability to maintain proper academic standards, then we're lost. But getting it right is really difficult. In addition to educating students, we also need to educate faculty and to provide them with robust frameworks that helps and supports them in maintaining academic standards. Unfortunately, this is often not what we find, not what I find working with colleges and universities. Instead, we find confusion among faculties and policies and procedures that are incomplete and don't make a great deal of sense. In the next vodcast on the topic, we'll look at those issues in more depth, but for now, I want to look at two really quite significant and problematic areas associated with plagiarism. One is to do with the use of computer tools to help to identify plagiarism, and the rules for academic offences that are based on some percentage score that comes from the use of those tools. The first thing to say about Turnitin and other such systems is that they're not plagiarism checkers, they're similarity checkers. It's quite a good idea to use those systems, but please don't imagine that they somehow save time. That's because they are similarity checkers, so users of them need to interpret the results, and this time-consuming step is often missed. The use of these tools is not an excuse for treating the matter as a technical one and as easy. Users need to look at the results carefully and to determine what the similarity percentage and other matching information actually means, and then to take a decision on that basis. And I want to take a particular look at this concept of percentage that comes out of these tools, because all too often I hear that an institution is using a percentage from a similarity checker as a threshold to determine what is, and therefore what is not, plagiarism and an academic offence. I want to be very clear. This is dangerous nonsense, and it needs to be rejected wherever it's found. A common refrain is that anything below 20% is okay. But what does that actually mean? Does it mean that copying 20% of your work from the internet's okay? I really hope not. However, a student who copies 5% from the internet will be safe. You may think, well, 5% is not much, but it depends. Suppose this is a capstone project report and it runs to, say, 50 pages. That 5% might represent a scattering of standard phrases across the entire document, probably entirely harmless. On the other hand, it might be 2.5 pages of continuous narrative that's been copied from the internet. In many colleges and universities, that will be enough to have the student expelled, dismissed. In addition to this, setting a percentage sends a terrible message. The student hears this rule as permission to copy at least some of the material that they make use of. In conclusion then, if we use similarity checkers, we will still need to invest considerable effort in identifying academic offences, and we should not be sending messages to students or faculty that suggests that a threshold percentage of similarity is acceptable. But if we don't use a percentage, then how should we proceed? What kind of policies and procedures and regulations do we need? What are the problems in making such a system work properly? Well, we're going to turn to those questions in the next vodcast on this topic.